Well, welcome to today's rant, and I'm here in South Carolina, about a good 3 wood from North Carolina. If you're not a golfer, that means about 200, 300 yards away from North Carolina. Both states are under a state of emergency because of Hurricane Florence, and it does seem this hurricane has the potential to do a lot of damage, and it is actually heading. It seems ground zero for this hurricane is our beach house, place where I did a number of rants this past summer from our deck there. It looks like it is the very point of the spear where that hurricane is coming inland, at least the way it seems directed right now. And I've sat through a couple of hurricanes in that house, and it's well built. It takes them pretty well. This seems to be an especially large one and dangerous one. Uh, so we would appreciate your prayers. We've got a church there in Wilmington, a lot of people where it's destined to come in, where we've already planned to take in about 400 seniors from a retirement community in South Carolina along the coast there. They should be getting to Heritage today, I believe. We've done this twice before, and it's a tremendous time. God just really moved both times, and we're expecting this to be another one where he's just able to use this time together. But anyway, I don't remember ever seeing the oceans stirred up. I think they said there was only one other time in history where there were this many hurricanes and tropical storms named systems at the same time, the Pacific and the Atlantic. I mean, it just seems that the oceans are stirred up, the waters are stirred up. And of course, in Isaiah 17 and in Revelation, the many waters speak of the many peoples. And I think there is a lot going on in the nations right now. Now, we tend to look at hurricanes as bad, and they do damage, but they almost never do damage except to structures that weren't built well or were built in the wrong place. And we could hardly survive in the South without hurricanes and tropical storms. They fill our water tables every year. They without them, we would probably be a desert. There's, they do a lot of good, and of course the wind is usually representative of the. Excuse me, I have to throw the ball for my dogs, but winds speak of the Holy Spirit moving. Rain speaks of His teaching coming. Now, when hurricanes come and slow down, the amount of rain become floods. And again, the place is built well, built in the right place. As the Lord said, if you hear His words and obey them, your house is like the one built on the rock, that when the storms come, it will stand. It will stand. But those who hear His words and don't do them, don't obey them, or who don't even listen, they're going to be in trouble. Well, we pray, this one feels like it is going to be a storm that does a lot of damage. I'm praying for it to be lessened or whatever. More than that, I pray for God's will to be done and for God's people to be ready to minister to their neighbors, to speak to their neighbors, to help their neighbors, which we're doing. We're set up to help people in crisis. That's an opportunity. It's one of the great times of harvest, usually. But more and more, I think the emphasis needs to be on being prepared, whether you're prepared because it's the Armageddon or just a storm. or an earthquake or fires. These things come all the time. Your worst Armageddon could come this week from a storm, from a fire, from an earthquake, from whatever. There's a way that we are just prepared to deal with stuff that happens, floods and things like that. We don't like it, it's uncomfortable, it's annoying, it's stressful, but not if we're abiding in the Lord. It only becomes those things if we're not abiding in Him and are not unified with Him and His purpose. So we need to seize these opportunities. And but anyway, we would appreciate your prayers too for all of the people along the North and South Carolina coasts and inland, because possibly the worst danger from this particular Florence, which is looks like going to be a major hurricane, it's going to come from the rains and the floods, even way up in the mountain regions. Floods can be a serious, serious problem. There's some of the scenarios, the projections that have some inland places in North Carolina and Virginia mostly getting up to 36 inches of rain from this thing. So anyway, we need to be praying, and for every one of these, let's learn the lessons: where to build, where not to build, how to build. And I'm not just talking about buildings, I'm talking about our lives. It is becoming so critical for every one of us to be in the will of God, geographically and every other way. Now, to change the subject a little bit, I'll be talking more about the storm this week as it unfolds, but I've had a number of people ask me about the Nike decision to kind of use Colin Kaepernick and as a promotional tool, and we're deeply, deeply offended by it. And now, one thing, Nike's a big company and they're a smart company, and they may have done it just out of devotion to a cause, which they think is righteous. I think to a large degree the cause is legitimate in some areas, in some ways, but it's not a legitimate way or the right way to protest, in my opinion, or to bring emphasis on the cause, which is there are some of our communities that have experienced incredible police brutality, government discrimination in general is still going on, and it's right that it be highlighted. I just don't think it's this way. Every soldier, every veteran, and especially the families of those who paid the ultimate price, made the ultimate sacrifice and gave their life for their country, they don't like to see the country's flag disrespected. It's a horrible thing to them. It's as offensive to them as any Confederate statue or Confederate flag is to others. Now, do you want to try to win support for something by offending people? It's never good. I think you lose it. That's why I can't understand why a company as smart as Nike is. They're great marketers. They've got to have great market research. And everyone who understands marketing already knows how much it costs for every single customer they add. And it's usually pretty expensive to get a single customer, new customer. They know the dollar amount, usually to the cent, how much it costs on average for every new customer they add. Here's a campaign where Nike can potentially lose tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, could even lose millions of customers. They said their shoe sales have already gone up, but listen, there's a whole lot more to Nike, and it won't really unfold the impact of this for over a year. So what is going to be the impact? I know cities right now are saying they will not use any more of the city resources for sports teams or anything to purchase any more Nike, resources, equipment, or anything. Schools are starting to do that just because of this one campaign. So there's no question they're going to lose a lot. Now, I would respect Nike if they so believed in the cause. They said, we will lose customers. We're going to lose a lot of money, but we got to do this out of conviction. And even if I disagreed with their conviction and how they're doing it, I would respect them for that. I respect people for being willing to sacrifice for their convictions, even if I disagree with how they're doing it, what they're doing, everything else. One of the things I've always tried to impart to my children, our family, those I minister to, you never compromise your convictions. You change them when you're shown that you're wrong, and we should always stay humble enough to be convicted when we're wrong. But you don't change them, you act on them. So, this is still, it's going to play out. Personally, myself, I decide right away, I'm through with Nike. Unless they have a real change of heart here, because I think this is totally the wrong way to do it. Even though I say I may respect them, I respect people, players that are taking huge risk to protest certain things, and many of them are paying the price. I think Kaepernick is obviously paying a price, but he didn't pay nearly the price what veterans have done, what others have done to both, to build this country and to preserve it. And I think it's really wrong to disrespect them. And I think ultimately Nike's going to pay a really huge price. I think the NFL is, for the shoddy way that they've handled this whole thing. Any other sport that does, I think you're going to see them go down. I really believe ultimately the NFL is going to lose 25% of their fan base, their followers, over this. And it's going to be hard for them to recover those. It costs an awful lot to add a single customer or a single fan or anything else. So they're already going to other sports, baseball and all, college football. But anyway, it's times that we live in. We honor and appreciate the right that people have to protest. But, if someone was to rub the face of a Confederate flag and to any black person, that should be horribly offensive to anybody, just as it would be to use a Nazi flag and do that to any Jewish person, or any person should be offended by the Nazi flag. And so, you may have a right to do it, but to do it, you're stupid, and you should pay a price for it. So I hope that is kind of where I stand. I am appalled at what's being done to our history, the way our history is being revised, changed. We can't learn the lessons. When a doctor cannot admit to a mistake because he'll be sued, nobody else can learn from that mistake. And I think when we try to whitewash our history the way it's going on, that nobody can learn from it. And we have a huge block of our population now that obviously can no longer learn. They cannot even hear anything that would challenge what they've been taught. And I would change the word taught to what they've been indoctrinated with. I believe our education system doesn't educate as much as it indoctrinates now. I think we've got to look seriously at how I think obsolete our university system has become in really educating people and preparing them for the future. So, not totally, and there are a lot that are really being helped. There are a lot of great universities, a lot of great programs, and listen, it seems to be an increasing number, though, that are not doing anything but damage to our country, to the people. They're not preparing their students for the future, and a future that is, every generation has had challenges. And are people being prepared to face the challenges and overcome them, or to hide from them in some safe space, which is a ridiculous thing to teach anybody. And so these are things we have to look at. These are all challenges. To me, I look at them as like all these storms going on in the ocean right now. The oceans, the Gulf, and even the Pacific Ocean. There, hurricanes bearing down on Hawaii again right now, and or typhoon. So these are the times we live in. These are the times we've been chosen to live in, and we've got to seize the opportunity. The greatest lights always arose during the times of greatest darkness. And I believe in the times of the greatest discord and division, it's time for God's people to enter into the greatest unity. And I think we are. I think you're going to see the opposite happening with God's faithful people. The opposite of what is going on in the world and what is the spirit of the world. God's people that have been faithful to Him have always been of a different spirit. So we need to be able to observe these things, see them, recognize them, understand them, be ready to minister to those who are affected by them. At the same time, never lose your peace. Resolve that you're going to grow in unity with God's people, grow in the peace of God in these times, because it is the peace of the God of peace who crushes Satan under our feet. The peace of God is one of the most powerful, divinely powerful weapons that we've been given. Never lose your peace. We abide in the Prince of Peace. He rules from the city of peace. And this is our opportunity. Thank you for listening to today's rant. And I'd also like to say, we start our master's in a leadership course this past weekend. And it was incredible. I was so encouraged by the quality of the students and just everything. We have an amazing master's in leadership course. It's an accredited course. And I think it's going to end up being one of the most powerful things that we're doing. And but you can still get in. We can still handle a few more. We had some that couldn't get into the country or whatever. So we could take a few more and we can catch you up in anything missed the first thing. But our master's course, what you do is you come in 1 weekend a month, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We go all day from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Then we have dinner together. We have all of our meals together. So we have more time for interchange and bonding. And you can't believe how our students bonded together over this weekend that we're here and with the instructors. And I think we got some of the great people who have been leaders on a world-class level as instructors. But it's something special. You can feel it. If God's calling you to something like that, take 1 weekend a month and 3 weeks at home. That's time to do your reading and everything else and live your life. We understand people have lives and jobs and careers and everything, but a master's can be really helpful, can allow you to teach in colleges and things like that. And we want to prepare some of the best in the world, especially in leadership, because I think this is where one of the greatest vacuums is, vacuum of need in the world today, in every area of influence, in business, in government, in the media, in arts and entertainment, in sports, in the church especially. We are in such desperate need of leaders and leadership. Anyway, I just really appreciate our students who've joined us in this first ever year, first time we've had this course, and I think it's going to be much better than I was even hoping, and my hopes were pretty big. But if something touches you, you want to be a part of, there's still time to get in. Anyway, thank you again for listening to today's rant.